numbers probably, right?
Yeah, at some point they start to join. I mean, we've got 15 waiting, but it is 2 minutes before the event. And then I just like to make sure that things connect, because if it doesn't, then I worry. And we're connected, so we're actually don't need to worry at all, which is fantastic, which means we'll be having people joining very, very soon, and I'm excited to kick off, but we'll give it 1 minute for everyone to join, and then we'll officially start. And
Sounds
while
like a
we're
plan.
waiting, anyone who's in the chat watching today, you can drop maybe where you're watching from. I think we've got Berlin here. Wherever you, Doeke, we're in your Amsterdam.
Yeah, more or less.
Where's everyone else calling in from? In our chat here, we've got Amsterdam for Ness, right?
Amsterdam, indeed. It's Berlin for me.
Also Berlin. We're all in. How did we could have done this live. How did I not know?
Now you're saying.
Now we're saying this. We could have done a little live sesh. Now I'm going to change. We're somehow switching around a little bit. Why are our little? I'm going to fix it so we stop moving around. I don't know if that helps. Did everyone notice that we're moving around?
No, I have the same people in my frame basically.
Okay, good. All right, then I think we are ready to kick off. We're going to start with a very warm welcome to everyone who's joining us today. We've got a nice session, a nice live webinar here with some wonderful, wonderful leaders in the HR and TA space across Europe. And we are here because Doeke and I decided we would collaborate on a report together. We wanted to see what all of these amazing leaders are doing, what the reality is when it comes to AI transformation internally, but also what the market's saying, so we could really bring the insights to everyone, so we stop seeing hype and actually start seeing, well, reality, more or less. And so we spoke to all these wonderful people. We're here today to talk about the report and the findings there, to have a nice chat. Hopefully you learn something that you can bring into your workplaces as well. And of course, you'll get access to the report first directly after this webinar. So that being said, before we jump into introducing everyone on the call today, I'm going to do a quick thank you to our sponsor, Harriet, for making this possible today. We really appreciate it. If you don't know what Harriet is, it is an AI employee ticketing system built for HR and internal IT to reduce noise and all that manual work that you have. So if you don't have a ticketing system, or you don't manage your people ops, questions, then Harriet could be something to check out. And that's my bit, more or less. I'm going to hand over to Doeke, who's going to introduce himself. He's from WeAreKeen, and he's who I've been collaborating on this with for, I don't know, how long has it been, Doeke?
A bit longer, I guess, than we anticipated, but I think I think we've been in contact for a year and a half or so, basically, when you start popping up in my timeline, like in anybody else's timeline on LinkedIn, I suppose. So, but anyway, welcome. Thanks so much, Jessie, for the warm intro, and of course the collaboration that we did together, and for setting this all up. And as for me, Doeke, I'm one of the co-founders. WeAreKeen. We run an embedded talent company out of Amsterdam and Berlin. And what we do basically in a nutshell is that we support the in-house TA teams of both skill ups and enterprise level, from a capacity perspective, but also from a strategic perspective, if people want to have learn more about the work that we've been doing across people, process, and technology. And one of the things that I sort of typically encounter when I talk to HR and TA leaders is usually what are you dealing with? What's on your plate, and how are you dealing with this? And obviously, with the rise of AI, basically, I got stressed out. I thought I had complete FOMO. What's everybody doing? How are they doing it? And basically, my default is just to talk to as many smart people as possible in my network, basically. And that's, I guess, where we found each other. Let's talk to a lot of smart people on what are they actually doing day to day. So outside all the BS, outside all the buzz that's online, and that sort of, I guess, came to be then the report that we're now talking about. Super happy about the results, and really thankful for everybody who joined us and also is here today. I guess for me, I'll ask our panelists to do a quick intro about who they are and what they're doing, and then from there on we can have a conversation and talk about the report and the findings around that. So, Manjuri, you're in the middle of my screen. Can I give you the mic and do a quick intro into who you are and what you're doing?
Thank you so much, Doeke. Thank you, and thank you for inviting to this webinar as well. I think when you were talking about this, I was just thinking how long back we go, and how we've been working together on a couple of projects, and actually and then moving from there on to being friends. So it's really precious. So thank you for inviting me.
Likewise.
I'm Manjuri Sinha, and I've spent the last 20 plus years in delivering execution at scale and culture transformation for organizations, tech and SaaS companies, hyper growth companies as such. What I bring to the table is driving business success for organizations, and one of the most important things for all of us is driving that EBITDA, but also ensuring that there's workplace humanity and workplace empathy. I worked across international organizations like Accenture, Zalando, OLX. That's where Doeke was also partnering with us on a couple of projects and helped us scale big time. And at the moment, I head global go-to-market organization for Miro. And I think another couple of things that you would hear from me. Number one is anything practical and pragmatic. Second is a bold voice. I tend to speak about things that a lot of people shy away from, and I can see Duke nodding his head there. And a fun fact about me is last year my mugshot was on Times Square, and if you want to know why, then you need to connect with me. So that's me.
Nice. Thank you so much, Manjuri, for the warm words and for your wisdom sharing with us, and that you're joining and participating with us today. Really looking forward to more of your wisdom and insights during the webinar. Vanessa, can I give the mic to you perhaps after Manjuri?
Absolutely. Hey, folks, I'm Vanessa Monsequeira. I'm first generation Indian Australian. I always like to start with that. And what brings me to this webinar today, the chapters of my career have gone between tech and product and people and culture space. And most recently, I left my Series B SaaS company where I helped lead the rollout of AI there. So I know the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I've gone full time into now my own business called Intelligence Rewired, helping executives and teams navigate AI through the hype and make it really intentional and meaningful for what it means for the future of work and the workforce. And I think specifically for me, I think some of the tidbits I'll help us maybe explore today is I think HR leaders are looking here, and we need to look up here at the macroeconomic landscape that we're swimming in and how AI is actually going to impact things around regulation and what that actually means for our org design and capability as well. So yeah, looking forward to
Nice. Yeah, fair points. Really looking forward to your insights a little bit later on, Vanessa, as well. And I've already seen some of your wisdom throughout the report as well. So super happy. And of course, we've worked together as well. So I'm really happy that you're here today as well. Ladies first, I always say. So Annika, I'm going to give the mic to you. And then last but not least, Mr. Hang. So please share with the audience who you are and where you're from, Annika.
Thank you so much for having me, first of all. Really looking forward to that webinar. And a little bit about myself. I'm a psychologist, gone mergers and acquisition once, then joined CHRO roles at companies like About You and Scale, leading them through their IPO journey. And now I am since 2 years CHRO of Statista. And for us, the current AI switch that we see on the macroeconomic level means a lot more than just what can we do with our processes, but really how can we reinvent our business model and become a key player with our data in the new AI ecosystem layer. And what brings me to the webinar today and what gets me excited is about decoding all the hype and buzzwords around and really seeing what are topics that we have to pick up on as people leaders to really push a transformation and not just fall for hype and buzzwords. Really looking forward.
Yeah, likewise, Annika, and I completely agree with you that we need to move away from all the buzz and all the fluff and really see what works and what doesn't work, and specifically what are other people doing, what are they struggling with, and how can we make this to use basically for other people as well. So on point in terms of we're doing the webinar. And then Hung, man, super happy that you're here. Welcome to the show, to the webinar. And I'd like to pass the mic to you to give you so you can give a bit of an intro to yourself for those who are not familiar with you just yet.
Yeah, so hi everyone, my name's Hung Lee. I basically write a newsletter, so if you're interested in that, you can subscribe to it, recruitingbrainfood.com. Use the free plan, it's the same as the paid one, so don't pay me anything. But anyway, you get that every Sunday and it's really good. So yeah, really look forward to having a chat with everyone here. I think we do need to talk about artificial intelligence and how it interfaces with HR and TA. But we also need to grasp the nettle. I think there are certain very difficult conversations we have to have with ourselves about the implications of artificial intelligence, and I think we're not having them. So I hope that we can start some of the conversation here today, particularly when we're talking about things like human in the loop, when we're talking about human judgment. Do we really know what it means when we commit to human judgment? I don't think we do, because it will mean that we have to wander into territory that we have relegated into the taboo over the last 20 years. We have to roll back a lot of our ideological commitments in this AI-enabled era. Anyway, I look forward to having a chat with everyone on this today, prepared to get triggered, basically.
Very good.
Basically,
very good.
that was a perfect lead, actually, Hung, into what we want to talk about. I think we want to leverage from that because some of what you said there, you know, they're bold statements, they're big, right? And you even wrote it in the forward, I think, you know, that we've become obsessed with being data driven, but we're losing human judgment through that. And so obviously you still stand by what you said there. I wonder if you want to add to that, and then we get the perspective of the others on that statement, because I think it is something we should talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. So human judgment is basically when the data runs out. It's facts, right? The only time when we ever need to make a decision is when the data is insufficient to give us guidance. In other words, the data, all the effort we've done in acquiring data has got us to a 50-50 left or right decision. We then, humans, have to then make a call. And so all of the people that talk about data driven decision making, I'm all for that, because it should mean that more information equals better decision making. But it doesn't sort of solve the problem of what do we do when we have a human being, when we come to a point where all of that effort is insufficient. Like, do we empower the human being, for instance, to make that call in every case? What are the conditions where that's okay? Do we need the human being to justify that 50-50 decision? What if that human being consistently makes a decision in a certain direction that we're not comfortable with? Are we still committed to it? Because all of those sort of positions that we haven't explored, we're going to encounter very soon. And ultimately, it means that, are we really comfortable with the human maintaining executive authority above all of the artificial recommendations? Now, my position is pretty clear. I'm pro-human 100%. That means human executive authority has to be above the AI recommendation in every case. But that also means accepting bad human judgment. And it also means accepting some really bad decisions that we inherently might disagree with. But we have to preserve human primacy over artificial intelligence. So that's the decision. That's my position. Happy to argue it with everyone on this. Feel free with your ideological tomatoes and get them thrown at me. Let's have it.
Well,
I'm not. Oh, sorry, you go, Jessie.
No, I was going to say, someone jump in there, because this is really interesting.
I'm not going to throw a tomato, but I'm going to give you a bouquet of flowers and maybe deepen it a little bit further. And that is, we keep saying that humans are losing critical thinking or human judgment. And bear with me, folks, I don't think we had strong human judgment or critical decision making in the first place. We people are thinking, are they critically thinking? And decision making is one of the most flawed human skills. So did we get taught it at school, at university, in business? I was lucky in, I worked in consulting in the past, and it was our bread and butter. We had to learn structured problem solving. We had to learn critical thinking, because apart from that, we just sold really expensive slide decks, if I'm going to be perfectly honest. And what I've noticed is, and what I'm most worried about, and why I agree with Hung, is there has to be a human in the loop. to look over it, because I'm worried about the decision making in the data models and the algorithms in the first place. If anyone, and please everyone go and buy Annie Duke's book. So she is a professor, she was a former poker player, of decision making, and she's written Thinking in Bets and How to Decide. And it shows how flawed our decision making is based on sunk cost fallacy, where we keep going, confirmation bias. So if humans aren't great at making decisions and algorithms are based on our data sets and thinking, how can we trust the decision and the critical thinking? So I think there's two pieces here. We've got to actually, before it even gets to a human in the loop making the decision, we've got to go back to question the algorithms and the data of like how these LLMs and the AI is actually coming to these decisions in the first place, because they are coded on biased decision making. And then we have to, I think, retrain the workforce in how to think critically and how to decide, because they're missing skills in the first place. I think there was a quote by someone recently, and it said, the measure of your intelligence is how many times you disagree with AI.
Interesting.
Nice one.
Okay, Annika, throw something back. We need some more tomatoes.
I think no tomatoes at all, just tons of flowers for both quotes. So I can really relate to that. And one part, whenever I hear people discussing about, hey, we have that 100% AI automated, and then just throwing AI as a technology or on a tool, certain processes, I'm always more like, hey, first of all, let's please take one step and see what do we want as an outcome of this process. And for me personally, there have to be much more processes in an organization that have to be human-led, and that also deliberately should stay human-led, but AI-enabled to support humans. And one other piece that I would like to pick up on is the part of the human judgment. And also, I think, always a fun discussion that every HR person has, also outside of HR, that it's like when someone's like, no, my performance reviews are 100% objective, where I'm like, that's not about to happen. That's the most subjective thing that we can do is decision making, and that one will remain. We have to improve on that, but it will always be a subjective factor, no matter what we try, what we do, how much we train.
I think Manjuri raised her hand as well, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still getting used to the raising hands thing.
We'll get there.
Very interesting conversation. I'll actually relate this to something real that happened last week. And I was talking to some of the peer HR leaders in Transform conference. And something that resonated with most CHROs and VPs of HR there was a fact that we face every month. That is the headcount of your organization. So your HRIS has a number. Your finance organization has a number. Your workplace organization could also have a number. And it is interesting that those numbers don't match. So going back to Hong's point, our data is, pardon my French here, data is effing messy. Most of our organizations haven't even cleaned up basic headcount data. You don't know. If you can find a 1601, 1610, 1615, and then you're figuring out, are they contractors? Did something not get executed with termination, etc.? Why is the number not matching? So number one, it is a mess. And the first thing that you have to do if you want to base your decisions and make them automated is clean that mess, number one. Number two, there's a lack of governance. Going back to the point on critical decision making, I think we don't even know who is making that decision. In most of the scale-ups and startups, and I can see Annika smiling, half the time you look at each other and nobody wants to make that hard decision. Third, human beings are lazy. In the world of TA or in the world of HR, you can already see managers and hiring managers delegating the hard decisions to AI. They are so happy that AI will suddenly do all the decision-making in talent acquisition and in selection and assessment, and suddenly they can pull back and in 3 months, then blame AI that you hired the wrong person and not take the ownership of hiring the right person and developing the right person. First thing that managers have gone to AI for is coaching, because they don't want to do it themselves. They don't want to figure out how to do it themselves as well. And this is interesting when you see that, Annika, you are a psychologist, so you are an expert here. the human beings are kind of delegating all that they're not comfortable with very soon. But this is not the time. I'll go back to what Hung said. This is not the time. We cannot rely on bad data. We cannot rely on bad algorithms. What we need to look at is ensuring first that we strengthen this human bit, put governance around who and how the decisions are made, and then kind of work together with AI on ensuring that decisions are data driven, but not completely, human blind.
I find it really interesting what you said there, Manjuri, about the data side of things being like having bad data. I mean, the report showed that I think it was like 25%, so 1 in 4 said that their data quality was their biggest issue when it comes to working with AI. And I think it'd be actually more than that if we surveyed a larger sample, because having been in in these roles as well at some point in my career, the data was always bad. So if we've got on one side, we're saying we need to make decisions, and on the other side, we're saying we need to be data driven in those decisions, and we're relying on data, but then we have data as one of the biggest issues we have. Like, what do we actually do? I don't know, Hung, if you have a perspective here in terms of like.
Well, I want at least one remark here as well. Like, I'm curious if you would completely break it down, basically, Hung, what you said, right? So then obviously, and I really like the part that Ness said as well around critical thinking. So you have somebody in your organization who is an executive who needs to make decisions, like end decisions, right? And then you have let's say AI data compared to or versus basically critical thinking, human being making decisions, basically. And if you then would go into an argument with this person, and at the end of the day, it's like, this is just the way I think it should work best, and I'm not looking at the data. Is that then basically what you're saying? Everybody would need to align with this and just agree with this, just because you have all decided that you're going to put the decision making of your organization with one executive? Is that then what we'll end up with, basically? Because it seems very far away from, let's say, an AI or a machine making a decision. Do you get my point, basically?
Yeah, I get your point, man. And I think this comes down to what kind of company you want to build. And it comes down, I think I would love to see actually huge diversity of how companies would ultimately come to that resolution. But we also have to accept within that diversity that there are going to be some like pretty much authoritarian type decision making going on, which I don't think we should lambast. I think that's just another way in which we're going to try and solve this problem. So I'd love to see a very wide diversity of how companies make hiring decisions. There shouldn't be a universal standard saying you're doing it wrong, you're doing it right. There should be like a broad breadth as to how it all works. This caveat upon caveat, obviously public sector has to be aligned to certain values there. Public sort of listed companies, I'm sure the shareholder commitments you've made and all kinds of declarations you've made publicly align with all of that. That's great. But the point of the matter is, I think it would be great if we had a lot of diversity in terms of how those decisions are made. And on the chat, I think there's certain things that kind of can influence to what degree we accept or actually would endorse a human decision maker that disregards the AI recommendations. So this is the thing I don't think we've talked about enough. We're heading down a world which I think is problematic, where essentially we're just going to rubber stamp AI recommendations all the time because we're going to demand justifications for the veto. So AI recommends candidate A strongly. I prefer candidate B. I actually have no reason to explain that. I just feel B is better, right? I just feel it in my water. I feel it better. I'm going to go with candidate B. What do we in HR do in that scenario? Have we role-played that in any way? Have we discussed it? Probably what we'll do, we'll lecture the hiring manager straight away and say, hang on, you're being a biased person here. Why are you doing this? And we're going to basically put that guy through the ringer, or the girl through the ringer, and explain why he or she is a terrible person. In my view, I think if the hiring manager is proximate to the person being hired, so in other words, it's in that person's team, you have to go with the gut instinct, even if the data says otherwise, and even if it looks like bias.
Yeah, this is a little bit to the point I was trying to get to, basically, right? So have we then sort of from where have we come, basically? Because I said 20 years ago, probably when we were all more or less in operational functions, we would end up with the same discussion with one of our hiring managers, right? So do you want to go with A or candidate B? And then you would have all the facts in place why A and et cetera is much better. And all my feeling says it's B, right? So I'm curious to see to which extent, well, that's all the buzz and the fluff around AI is really, really helping elevate that conversation, basically.
Mm-hmm. It's yeah, it's interesting because we're saying we will, like Hung said, we will never veto. If we basically say, well, if you can't justify why, then you have to go with what we have to go with the data. So we'll always go with AI. So we're just, like he said, we're rubber stamping. So it's how do we have to be able to justify when it's not. And so how do we get that data, and how do we justify like gut feel and these things, and is gut feel okay, and in what, and it's going to be, like you said, maybe company by company. I wonder if there's any companies that you've seen doing this, like have you got any examples, Hung, where anyone does this? Have you seen companies or people pushing back, being like, I'm not going to be using AI for these things, I'm just going to be going with like human stuff? Like, have you seen?
Well, these are all the people that we in HR profoundly hate. Elon Musk, Donald Trump. Donald Trump has clearly got a hiring policy, right? He's a terrible person, don't get me wrong. I've publicly opposed the guy. But he's got a very clear pro-human way of making decisions. Now, he's making terrible decisions all the time, as is clear today, right? As is clear every moment of the day. However, he is definitely doing so without the use of AI. He's just making gut calls all the time. Now, we have this really uncomfortable situation where, do we actually agree that the human being is always going to be have primacy over the AI recommendation? And under what conditions does that apply? And how do we actually make it all work? I've been trying to figure this out. I don't know the answer. I think there's a few elements that kind of fall into it, but ultimately I'm sticking with the human ahead of the AI. And the reason is exactly as you described, because if we end up forcing the human to have to justify the decision or even explain the decision, we're just going to end up rubber stamping what AI recommendation every single time. And we then, therefore, maybe a human in the loop, but actually the human is just a meat stamp. There's no point in the human being there, because the result will be exactly as AI described. And we've made ourselves entirely redundant. Again, my view is we never should make human beings redundant. We should always be on top, even if we end up making bad decisions.
Interesting. Now, I know you've got to jump soon, Hung, and you can't stay for the whole thing. So keeping that in mind, we've got hands up to talk about this topic, but I just want to ask you one final question, because then you have to run. I don't want to miss it. I want to know that basically, what's one thing that you recommend and you would tell everyone in HRTA as a leader, what should they be doing right now? What should they go and do tomorrow? Like, what is the focus? Where should they be putting their focus right now when it comes to AI transformation, this whole change that we're going through?
So firstly, AI is, we need to use it, and we need to be an exemplar within the function as to how it's being used. So there's no question it's going to accelerate our performance, it's going to accelerate our capability. I think all of the non-sort of executive decision-making parts, we should absolutely try and automate. Where it comes down to the human being a decision maker, we need to not only preserve it, but we need to very clearly defend it. We need to articulate the position to say we have to rehabilitate human intuition. We have to rehabilitate and train for and develop human judgment. Like there's a friend of mine who, Jane Moore, she's brilliant consultant South Africa. She says, you know what, human intuition is great if we only had if only we had enough of it. And there's lots of people with bad intuition, right? There's lots of people who are making gut calls when they don't have domain expertise. One of the elements in which we can trust someone's intuition is when they've got done tons of reps in doing that one thing, right? It's like cooking a meal. If you've cooked a meal 1,000 times, you probably don't need to follow the recipe book. You don't need the data, because you've got the muscle memory, you've got the data in your brain, you've got your intuition, you feel for it, the smell of it. You know when to add salt, when to add water. You kind of massage the way through. That's developed through expertise. So when you have a domain expert, I'm much more inclined to lean with that person's sort of gut instinct than someone who's never cooked before and just decide, you know what, I'm going to ignore all advice. I'm just going to make a Trump-like gut call, right? So maybe there's an element where we have to look at expertise and then connect the expertise to human intuition and respect the human intuition when it is aligned with domain expertise.
Goodness, that's going to be a fun future that we have coming, isn't it, for all of us to work out how we're going to handle all of this? Because I think we're all agreeing like humans need to be above the AI, and it's like, how do we do that in a way that makes sense? I think that's the hard question, but I appreciate your comments on that, Hung. I think it'll lead us down the pathway of also, when we look at transformation, we look at design and we look at how we, bring tech into organizations. How do we preserve those things as we progress through, and how do we do that the best way, and how do we identify areas? So really appreciate you taking the time. Hung, I know you've got to jump, but thank you so much. And anyone, if you didn't hear it already at the beginning, he's got his Brain Food newsletter. I've chucked it in the chat. You can go and sign up for it. It's great read. Follow him on LinkedIn. He's also got great content. We appreciate it. And that's it. Thank you. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Hung. Good luck today.
And that brings us back to the rest of our panel here. You've got some hands up. I'm really happy to hear your opinions on this, guys. So anyone who wants to jump first, or are they old hands? I'm not sure. If they're old hands, then we can swiftly move to the next question, but I'm happy to have any statements on what we were just talking about before we move on.
Manjuri, any thoughts on the last bit of Hung?
Which one, Jessie, do you want to be answered first?
As you like, whatever you want to whatever comes out.
I think, so, you know, the one topic or the one thing for other HR and TA leaders, or, you know, I like to call all of them HR leaders, is cleaning the clutter. There's a frenzy going on out there. And unfortunately, a lot of this frenzy is driven by vendors in the market, SaaS vendors in the market. And that frenzy has to be clean. So you don't just bring in 16 to 17 different products and kind of dump it on your existing bad processes and say that I'm running an AI transformation. There's a frenzy on this side, which is externally driven. Then there's a frenzy which is driven by the C-suite. Suddenly, all the CFOs are only ready to invest or make investments in anything which has AI connected to it. The C-suite is actually looking at each other, and there's a unwritten fight going on who shows up more AI transformation to the CEO. The CEO, in turn, is looking to the board on driving up valuation, and that valuation today in the market is driven by AI. So there's a lot of frenzy. It's a lot on the CHRO's shoulder to really clean up. But this task is something that has to be taken over, and that's a voice in the C-suite that can literally bring people back to basics, say that we need to go back to foundations. We need to start at the intersection of finance and HR today. That cleanup would be the first cleanup to do, and then going back to basics, even before running and kind of driving the next so-called AI transformation in your organization. If we are not doing that, we are going to lose out tomorrow. We are in a very interesting world today. I was looking at a couple of conversations last week through LinkedIn, and even a lived conversation. I heard my husband works with Accenture as a consultant, and one of his engineers literally pinged him saying that I need more tokens. This is something that no organization is talking about. These tokens are going to cost SaaS companies huge amount of money. Today, we want everybody in our organization to use AI. Wait for the next 6 months. You will actually figure out that you don't want everybody to use AI. You will be calculating something called as employee per token usage, and that efficiency will become super important. We count our staff cost based on the number of headcount or number of people, FTEs in the organization. Tomorrow, with token cost going up, we will actually see increase in this, even if you keep your headcount steady. So we are entering into a very, very interesting phase, and that's where the CHRO and CFO interaction has to start happening today. Now, as an HR leader, I think these are the conversations to drive at, and not just like, Vanessa was talking about earlier, not just those baseline processes. Can I bring this tech, that tech? No. If you want to elevate the conversation, then drive it from that level.
I just wanted to cheer, like I kept pressing the react button. It's like everyone says, what are the metrics that we need to look at now? And a lot of people are talking about, is AI making us more productive? Let's look at ARR or revenue per employee. And I was like, that is such a tenuous link. And I was talking to a senior person at Lovable the other week, and she said for the first time, it's not headcount that will be the most expensive part of P&L. It will be token costs. And I was just like, yes. And if we don't have, linking it back to what Hung was saying, if we don't have critical thinking, people are outsourcing their thinking. It's going to cost you a lot more as a business. So I wanted to just round that off and just cheer for Manjuri. I think what I wanted to go back to from what Hung was saying as well is I think we've had a lot of agreement on this chat. I might do a slight disagreement. on some of the one word that I've heard is I don't love data-driven decisions. It should always be data-informed decisions because it sounds like the data is driving a decision. Let me give you one of the worst examples, practical examples in history. So many people might know this. There's a TED talk by Trisha Wang if you want to look at this. It was the fall of Nokia before Apple put their iPhone out. And what most people don't know is they did quantitative research. But it was their quantitative research, which was confirmation bias in the decision that people wanted the 3310. Nothing was happening. But Trisha Wang was an ethnographic or a qualitative researcher who was on the ground in Asia, particularly in China. And she kept saying to the board at Nokia, something is happening here. Something is coming. People do not want to use that phone in its current form. They're like, no, our data shows that people want this. Because it was quantitative data and they discounted qualitative data. And a year later, the iPhone came out. Similar thing happened, sort of same, but different at Netflix, where they had competitions for the Netflix engineers to try and get people to keep watching and having screen time. And they kept looking at their data to make decisions that was quantitative data. It wasn't until they bought an ethnographic researcher, a qualitative researcher to come in. He was the person that figured out the autoplay. And that is what changed the algorithm. So I think we just need to once again be so cautious of just quantitative data and our inability to marry that with qualitative data. And if we don't have this good skill as humans yet, how is the AI going to do that? And the companies that will win, the companies that will survive, have the critical ability, not just at the end of the loop, but the middle of the loop. So with my team, I made this goes back to Manjuri, what Manjuri was saying, you got to have guardrails and principles of how you will use AI. And I call it the AI sandwich. So I said to my team, before you touch any of it, you need to do a little bit of critical thinking. I like a model SCQA, situation, complication, question, answer. You got to do that thinking yourself, then chuck it into the AI. Then you get spat out an output. Then you need to disagree. You need to chew over it instead of just take that output and show it to someone. When you've had multiple iterations, then you need to do critical readiness, because all the research is showing, and we've been there, where someone presents us something and you ask them questions and they don't know what is in their own report or their own work because they didn't do any thinking or manipulation of the data. They just outsource their thinking, and half of the numbers don't hold up, half of the thinking doesn't hold up. So my concern is with inadequate mix of quantitative and qualitative data, without training and guardrails of how AI is accepted with critical thinking, people's own intellect, their cognition is going to atrophy. How are we setting up the workforce for the future to think? And it's much harder to build up those thinking skills once your neurons atrophy in a certain area. You can do it. We've got to ask our people, are we actually setting up the future workforce for success and employability in how we roll out the AI?
Very good point. Thanks for sharing, Ness. Very good. Annika, did you also want to share something?
Yes, and I would like to pick up points from Manjuri and from Vanessa both. So let's start with the one Manjuri had just raised on the token topic. Last year, we did a huge transformation, an AI-based transformation of our content department. So basically everything which is content that you see on our Statista platform, reports, models, whatsoever, how much do we want that AI enabled? And we had a lot of discussions, and whenever I spoke to other people outside of Statista, they were like, but it's more like a personal expense reduction, right? Why does it take you so long? I'm like, it's not. It's like looking at every single process bottom up, cleaning up what's misdesigned, seeing what is a usual process automation, and then seeing where AI kicks in and really defining what does that mean on a process level, which one is AI enabled and which one is still human led, which one might be vice versa. Spoiler, we have all processes that are human led, because as Statista, as like our USP is trustful data. If we would mess it up, and then coming to the next part of the work slop, when people outsource their thinking, that would be our death as a company if we would put sloppy data somewhere that have been 100% done by AI. So that one was a very critical one. And the interesting topic that I also got a lot of grins about, that I always said, it's not a cost exercise. It's a workforce transformation exercise. And in the first year, yes, we as Statista calculated less costs. But then stuff will build up. We need more AI engineers to get stuff done. We need more agents. We need more tokens around that. So if you just calculate it towards what's to come next, more likely it will be just a shift of the budget and a different way on how we do things. But the primarily objective of it was not a cost exercise. And we now also seeing our hypotheses from back then materializing, that it wasn't a cost case, that it was a pure process redesign workforce transformation case. And then the second one, Vanessa, to pick on your point, I read end of last year or beginning of that year, there is always that from the Harvard Business Review, there is always the top articles or the top words and trends from the year. And I think on number 1 or 2, it was work slop for 2025. So people just outsourcing their thinking to AI, putting a bad prompt or something into ChatGPT. Best of all, like basic version, and then look productive. And I'm like, here, look what I got as an output throughout the day. And you read through it and you're like, so it doesn't make sense at all. And if you then go back and check the sources, I think this is where the second layer of magic happens. Another study I read last year, that out of ChatGPT models, the sources that you get, 40% of them are from Reddit. I don't say anything against Reddit, but if you would be researching about something and you really need a business like source from it, would you go to a board meeting and be like super self-confident and be like, yeah, I got that one on Reddit, so we can rely on it? Of course not. But with ChatGPT, other people do. So therefore, a lot of education exercise also on that one when it comes to media knowledge, critical thinking, but also how to take data, what's a trustworthy source.
Nice, very good point. It might actually be a nice bridge to sort of quickly slide into the next sort of topic. A little bit around the tools and to which extent do they sort of help with transforming? Because if we look at the report that we did, of course, all the conversation that we had with you among others, is that it said that 6% of the leaders are testing AI tools, so they're playing around with it. That's where I think a lot of the slop that you're referring to, Annika, comes from. But only a small percentage, 20-ish%, has actually scaled that new technology to enable and drive change within organizations. Is that something that you have you experienced that yourself as well in your organization? Like, how do you get from playing around, and I think also sort of making people enthusiastic around playing around with tooling, and then finding the right one, and then making the, well, let's say, the critical decision to double down on it, and from there, let's say, start on that transformation journey? I think, Manjuri, you want to say something?
Yeah, Doeke, I think this I can speak to from experience from my last organization, where I led the AI transformation for our talent team, and a couple of things which were definitely a learning experience. Number one, yes, we should experiment with different tools. I think it gives you a lot of perspective when you do some POCs and figure out, to Nessa's point earlier, right? Even questioning the builders of the tool on how does this work, what is the basis of the decision making, even so much so that asking what are the demographics of the engineers and the product team that sits behind this tooling as well, because that gives you a lot of insight on whether this is biased or not. If you have a team of 20 white engineers, male, sitting and designing that product or not. So with that, I think one of the key things why the implementation fails is because you put the tool before culture. And in most cases, it's actually a culture change that you need to bring about. Number one, with AI tools, there's a lot of apprehension within your own team that you're going to replace them. So the why and the purpose, and looking at where in the process are you implementing this? Are you ensuring that this will be an augmentation to the humans in the process, and helping them out or not? So putting that why, putting that purpose clearly out there, bringing your team along with you is super important. Second is the users in the organization. So whether it be interviewers or hiring managers, and also looking at what kind of change would it be, would it require? Now it's a very common thing, but back a couple of years ago, this was probably 2.5 years ago, we were the first couple of customers of MetaView at that point of time. And convincing even more than a candidate, this was interesting, more than a candidate, convincing an interviewer that this will be recorded and there'll be a script available was interesting, because the interviewer thought this could be used for their performance.
Yeah.
And they were shy on one hand, but they were also skeptical on the other hand. What if this data is shared with my manager, right? So reducing those kind of, or kind of removing those misconceptions, talking to managers, taking the champions amongst them and making them talk, etc., and also giving them the flexibility that, hey, if you're not comfortable, don't use it. And it was interesting that we actually saw 123%. I still remember the number, 123% adoption. How does this go beyond 100%? Well, we were implementing this only for tech interviews, but even the commercial interviewers asked for it during the first launch, and that's how we achieved this. So I think to really summarize, the number one thing is bring your own team along, because they are scared and skeptical. Number two is drive culture before AI, and this was also true with our tech tools earlier.
Nice, very good point. Very good point. Interesting that scaling, that you go over 100%. Nice example. Great. Annika, is there any experience from you in your role with Statista, that sort of, how do you go about facilitating your team or the wider organization to play around with it, to experiment, and then how do you get from that, let's say, messy, creative phase to something that might actually work and actually bring more efficiency and or whatever you're achieving at that moment in time?
Yeah, so I don't think that I have a lot of new things to add, but just how we approach it, we really much do it on a divisional and use case basis. So first of all, we set the basics and expectation level from C-level throughout the company. And then we deliberately frame it that we want people to test, to try, to identify use cases, and then gather together and find solutions around it. And I think one part that really helped us is also an open framing of topics. So not that we go out, hey, look at this and find a solution with AI. So one part, how I often frame it, is like, hey, there is so much, giving you the example about the Claude AI HR agent, where I just said, dear team, we should get an informed opinion on how much that one can help us. So what will we do about it? We will plan a month of testing in our team. We will have playtime, and we will put that up in our calendars, and it's a non-negotiable. Only if the office burns, yes, then that's a negotiable thing. However, this is something that we really need to get up to speed to. And then goal of this is make an informed decision. Is it more hype at the moment? Is it hype in general? How can that help us, or doesn't it help us at all? And then let's discuss. And if we see that it helps us, then let's drill down into the use cases and discuss together. And I think having these discussions in an open way, and also do not pressure people in find a solution with AI, but exactly leave them space. If you have doubts, we can talk about this. You're not forced to use it, but please try it out. It's a little bit like things that you're maybe trying as a food for the first time, right? When I hear people who never tried anything and then are like, oh, I don't like it. Then like, how do you know? How do you know? Just try it, take a bite, and then see if it like works for you or not. And I think this is a way how we should move forward on that.
Yeah, and I really like that you sort of, if you're able to really include the complete team, because of course you also always in teams you have people who are like completely enthusiastic, right? They want to go into it, and then they become sort of also not only the most enthusiastic people, but also the people that influence decisions the most, basically. So if you organize in such a way that everybody needs to do it, then I think eventually you're your decision-making process, as Vanessa was referring to a little bit earlier on as well, gets more more neutral and I guess better in that regard, right? So yeah, good, nice, thanks.
Can I ask a kind of probing question to this topic? Also in the report, it showed that 9 out of 10 of the companies are investing in some kind of AI literacy, so like training and support for the organizations. How does that play? So there's like experimentation and then there's like training and education kind of components. How important do you think that is in terms of successful change? Because I think a whole lot of organizations aren't doing enough in that space, but all the leaders that we talk to, 9 out of 10 of them are basically, all the companies are like, we need to support our organizations with this. And I think that's something that, you know, we need to do more of. But what is your perspective, how important that is to successful transformation?
Yeah, I can talk to that. I think it goes hand in hand. I always like a 2x2 matrix, and it's kind of like, if you invest too early in the technology and your people aren't upskilled, you've got stranded investment. If you train your whole workforce and you don't have the tech ready or the AI infrastructure ready, you're training your people to go to a new. I'm just hearing reverb. I'm not sure if that's just me, but it's really weird. I'm hearing my voice. Anyway, so I think for me, I think there's a macro piece where you have to look at the tooling and AI capabilities. So I'll give you a practical example. Last year when we were like, oh, we've got to get our people AI literate, we very much focused on what is AI and AI ethics and different like understanding AI. And that didn't work so well, to be honest. So I'm not sure if
Doeke, are you muting? It's your screen.
I think I'm still there, right?
Yeah, but we're hearing a really bad echo. I just muted him, so you can keep going.
So I think what I can share out of my lesson was the two mistakes I made is not building any of the training in-house at the moment if you need to go quickly. Now there is really good legit training out there. So like, you know, if it's Anthropic's fluency model, MIT has really good AI 101. All of this is free. Google, Microsoft have some stuff. So I think it's, what do you curate as a company to get your people learning the training? Also, those companies are incentivized to keep that training up to date, and then how do you just put wrappers yourself around that, saying here how it's contextualized to our company is one piece. And the second biggest mistake I've made is we all talk about critical thinking, human judgment. The World Economic Forum has told us that those skills, including emotional intelligence, will be the 2030 skills of the future. And a lot of heads of people, including myself, because you're moving so fast, didn't put budget aside to train those critical skills. So I think that's a huge piece, is look at where can you build, buy, borrow in the training. Borrow a lot of the open source things, then you figure out whether you build or buy those critical thinking skills, emotional intelligence skills. And then what worked really well for us was our IT and security team doing hands-on, like not just this is the tool, just like kind of, you know, safe sort of bubble training where people would get on their hands on the tools, whether that was Google LLM, whether that was Gemini, whatever you're using. I think there's a multi-tiered part of not just conceptual training, but creating a safe space to give people hands-on tools, which I think links back to the question before this, which I wanted to add to is, I presented to our VC, like I was at our VC company and all the portfolio companies were there trying to share what do we do with tooling. And I think a company can go anywhere between use any tool, just get on the tools to get literate, or we have chosen the certain tech stack, you need to use this. And the big thing we haven't discussed, the big unknown in between, is data and security. So if you're telling everyone go and use these things, but people don't understand what intellectual property, particularly in HR, they can and they can't put in these tools, that is going to be a recipe for disaster. So I think whilst we're training people to get AI literate, there's a huge piece of work for the leadership team or the team that's driving this transformation to say, where will we once again give the guardrails of where you can use any tool to get literate, but you must not use data? And where is this our chosen tooling that we're going to scale? And we've done, you know, all of our compliance and security and safety, because I know it's not sexy, but it's just such I don't see this being talked about enough, is the governance, the security and the compliance. Just one or two incidents could sink a company.
you're muted, Doeke. Yeah, good, okay.
I think I'm back, right? Can you hear me? No disturbance. All right, fair. Good point. I totally agree with you on data and security. I don't think it's talked about enough, and I don't know why, but people, I agree with you. Like, people don't think it's kind of sexy or work well unless the moment that you actually are right in the middle of the storm, right? And there's nothing else that matters, basically. Cool. Hey, just quickly with you, Jess. How are we on time? Do you want to go to section number 5? Do you think it's time to go to the section number 6? What do you think?
We're doing rapid fire.
Yeah, let's
rapid
do
fire.
it.
We've got 4 questions. We're going to throw them at you, and you're just going to give us like a statement or a word or whatever. Okay, so rapid fire answers here.
Here we go. I'll start with number 1, and whoever thinks you want to jump in, please do. If you could fix one thing before buying any AI tool, what would it be? So if you could fix one thing before
just throw it
buying
out.
an
Don't put
AI
your hand
tool.
up. Just unmute and say what you reckon.
The intention behind buying AI tools.
I like that one.
Yeah,
Manjuri, what's yours?
Clean up the data.
Critical thinking.
Nice. I like that one.
Biased, but that's
We're already in the recap phase, I think. Yeah.
Okay, what skill does every HR leader need in the next couple of years that most you think do not have yet? Vanessa, critical thinking.
Org design. Oh no, it's org design. That's
org design. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's storytelling.
Ooh, like that.
Annika?
I would add the org design piece.
Right. Yeah. Operating model. How do we work? How does the structure designed? All of those things I think we're missing. I'm going to put my hand up for that too. But I love the storytelling piece, because if you can't bring people
human,
on
right?
the journey.
It's human in the loop. Like, no machine can tell a good story, right? So it's going to be boring.
Yeah. And if you can't connect those dots for people and bring them along, like, it's just nothing's going to happen. It doesn't matter what you do.
There goes the purpose.
Well,
we have another question, but I think we could fill a whole webinar with this question, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway. So try to make it concise. It's going to be tough on this one, but what's the boldest prediction you have for the future of TA? I'm going to start with you, Annika, and HR, obviously. Your boldest prediction.
Wow, that's a tough one. I always say if I have the bold projection for in 5 years, then I'm lying, because I think like there is so much developing at a pace that is unforeseeable for me. But bold one, I don't know, something that within the next years we will really be able to mix our teams, looking at our teams like human people and agents, and also really be able to communicate it out there. So it's not only your 3 HRBPs that you can reach out to, but there are also these 3 subject matter experts, which are agents that will guide you through the way. We'll be testing it this year at Statista.
Oh, cool.
My bold prediction is it will be a predominantly agentic workforce with humans, unless governments put in proper regulation, incentivization for businesses to be able to keep hiring humans. We work in capitalism.
Ooh, good one. Manjuri?
My boldest prediction would be that the C-suite finally realizes the need for HR at the table, and HR actually owns the table. That'll be my boldest prediction.
Yes.
And my slightly not too optimistic prediction is that in the next 2.5 years, HR will be handling another crisis, which will come out of this AI-driven fake valuation bubble that is happening right now.
Nice. There was one of the interviews I did. His argument was Radboud from Zalando, that recruiters could be replaced with holograms, basically. So you would just have your phone, a hologram, and interviews would be with a hologram instead of with a human being. So let's see. What's that, Jessie?
I don't know about this.
Me neither.
Last rapid fire question. One thing that most HR teams are wasting money on right now.
We never waste money.
Next point, next topic.
I was about to say HR teams actually don't have money to waste.
We all needed a good belly laugh.
You're like, what money?
What money?
Give us the money, we'll waste it.
Which budget?
On a probably serious side, we are wasting a lot of money in making expensive changes to bulky HRIS systems. And I think that's one of the opportunities to change with agentic coming into play. If we can move away with, okay, I'll be very honest, I don't like Workday. Move away with big, bulky, systems which are not needed for 1,000, 2,000 people, and actually bring in some expertise to build things in-house on the agentic side. And we are wasting a lot of money. Even a slight change of a line and a word, and you would have the agency charge you 30, 40,000 to change those. It is preposterous. This is a waste of money. We can do a lot with this kind of money that we throw out.
Manjuri, we can talk about all the tech that you don't need. We can discuss. So I think it's just crazy what's going to come for the market soon with all these, more flexible products, of course, right? Like, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens there, but totally agree with the wasting money on that kind of thing.
Good point.
And to add on these bulky ones, I think also I see a lot of companies have a too fragmented tooling landscape. So on the one side, you have that big bulky one. On the other side, you have 30 tools in your HR stack, basically for everything, that you just put a fix on something. Oh, there is a problem, so let me fix it with a tool. And I think, unfortunately, this is a problem, but this is also something that will be much easier if we enable the agentic side more.
Yeah, I think this will definitely be one of the breakthroughs moving forward, with basically operating systems within HR and our TA who combine all these things, way more of an holistic approach instead of segmented in these islands all around, basically. So fair point, very fair point. Good.
And my one is, it might be a taboo topic, but I think we all always avoid talking about employee relations payouts. So I think that's where we leak money because of cultural issues or manager accountability, and that's only going to get worse. And I talked to a head of people the other week where she's like, my people are using AI to respond to ER cases, and it's just prolonging it. So I think once again, it's kind of like being really smart there around where we won't use AI and what that actually costs the company in the long term, from brand damage as well as payouts.
No, I love all of those answers. Okay, everyone, we are out of time. I really appreciate all of you joining us. Fantastic answers, and all of the content that we got from all the 25 leaders across Europe, from HR and TA. The insights are wonderful. The report's great. You're all going to get access. Everyone who signed up to this will get access today. You'll get a follow-up email. You'll have the link. You'll be able to have a read. There's some great nuggets in there, how to approach transformation in a way that the leaders are doing it. How are all of you guys, you're here today talking to us about all of these things that we need to avoid, all the things we should be doing, and I think that's just gold for a lot of teams out there. So really, really appreciate your inputs for the report, but also today. So that's it, everyone. You'll, like I said, get a follow-up email. You'll see the report. You'll be able to watch this back if you need to, take notes, and that's it. We're going to close out and let you have the rest of your day back.
Thanks, Manjuri. Thanks, Vanessa. Thanks, Annika. Thanks, everybody, for joining. And Jessie as well.